whenever we see another Vietnam vet, they'll acknowledge, like, this hat I have on, or I'll do it to them usually. Welcome home, bro. And because we never got welcomed.
All right. Welcome, Jason. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming out here. I'm very excited to hear your story, and welcome to the Send Me podcast. And, I think your story, just a little bit that we've talked about it, was absolutely amazing. And, I want to hear the whole story, and I'm glad that you made that trip out here to talk to me.
I am too. And I start off immediately saying I'm not a hero. I know it sounds humble, but I'm not. I was with a bunch of heroes for 2 years in from 67, excuse me, to 68 in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I was in an area called War Zone C and Part of D.
Okay.
And I get into it, but, with that in mind, my story starts with well, let me back up a minute. Every Vietnam vet has a story.
Absolutely.
You're about to hear mine. Most of them don't want to even talk about it. I get that a lot from younger kids and grandkids of the Vietnam vets. And there's a reason why. We were never, a saying has developed since whenever we see another Vietnam vet, they'll acknowledge, like, this hat I have on, or I'll do it to them usually. Welcome home, bro. And because we never got welcomed.
Yeah.
We didn't have parades. We didn't have, it just set us in a mood that we didn't want to get bothered. Once in a while I'd get into it with someone intoxicated, usually going out. And example, how many babies did you kill over there? None. I saved more than I can count probably when we all went in and did pacification of villages and stuff, getting them to safe areas. But you don't argue with a drunk, bottom line. But my comeback is also you don't get to pick your war. When a country calls, and sometimes it's through a draft, which happened to me initially, but I volunteered past it so I could get special schools in the military. And I went in for 3 years enlistment instead of the common 2-year, which is associated with the draft. And I have an older brother who is 15 and a half years older. My sister's 16. Like, I was an uncle at 8. That's embarrassing, an uncle at 8, but I was. And it just kind of made for a unique situation. Well, anyway, my brother I just adored, admired. He went to he took ROTC at the University of Missouri, and came out a second lieutenant, and worked his way up. I think he was I don't think I think he was a first lieutenant, but all of his class, almost, there were like 150 some of them, went to Korea. Korea was winding down. They were doing mop-up duty there, kind of pacification. I don't know what you want to call it, but there wasn't vigorous war going on at all. But they went to Korea, and he went to Hawaii. It was 8 others. They were field artillery units, and he got certified at Schofield Barracks, Oklahoma, to be a forward observer. He has his own pilot assigned to him, and I thought that was so cool. He'd always talk about it, and he said, after I got drafted, well, you really ought to go airborne. It's like a special society or a bunch of group that stays together for life, and then you might as well be a ranger, and then with that you can up the tree to special force. Hey, the guy tell me this while he's probably drinking the 4th beer in Hawaii on a beach. They used to land on the beach, or they used to shoot wild boar, put them in a Visclean bag, take them back to the officers club, and have an luau for the weekend. So
Wow.
That was tough duty. I teased him about that forever, but I took most of his advice. He was airborne, and he had a lot of. So I went to jump school and enlisted for it, and I enlisted for the 173rd. Well, there was a mix-up, which happens in the military all the time. We were at Camp Zama, which is a processing center for everyone that comes over there. I'm going to back up a little bit. Our plane landed. We took off from Travis, and we're all new. We're in our base uniform, just regular. I think it'd be Class A's, but they're not the real blue ones like you see in banquets. But anyway, we were dressed and went there, and they processed us. Said, okay, you're going to your assignments. And there's a bunch of deuce and a half trucks out there. And I should have thought about all this when I first got off the plane. They had to spray the plane totally with a disinfectant for any malaria mosquitoes that would try to hitchhike a ride back to the States. Anyway, we landed. All went well. And I got on a bus, like a school bus, but it was OD green, military type.
Got it.
And we got on the bus, and it was hot. And I was trying to get the window open. I was sitting in the driver. I was kind of behind him, about 2 rows. He said, "Hey, soldier, give up on it. That window won't open. There's a wire mesh screen over the windows welded to it. You know, like a cheap grill that you'll see in a lot of parks.
Yeah.
It's expanded metal. You can see out of it, but you're going to need all kinds of torch and everything else to get through it." Well, he said, "That's on there for," I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Well, little kids ride their bikes alongside these buses. They know there's soldiers on them, and they throw grenades inside it."
Oh, wow.
I'm going, this isn't your designation stop, obviously. Yeah. And I was, so you're real paranoid about all that. And then we get to the Camp Zama, I think it's called, the assignment camp where they process you for your units. Well, I show my copy of my enlistment and everything, the orders. I enlisted another year just to get this all.
How old were you when you enlisted?
I was 18.
Wow.
Just turned 18. And I had a lot of kids in my unit they came in at basically 17. I don't know if the military turns their head or you have to have both parents sign off, but somehow they got in like that. And they were in the same situation. They got drafted, but they they enlisted for an extra year because you could get a guaranteed school and occupation, which I wanted to do. Well, I never made it to be a Green Beret, not even close. A Ranger, no. Airborne, yeah. And we did that. But anyway, the 2 trucks are leaving. One for the 173rd, which I just wanted to be with. It's a real famous brigade unit. They call it the Herd, one section of it. And the guy says, the sergeant in charge, "Hey, Phil, get in on that truck over there to the left." And I said, "Okay, you don't think twice. I mean, we're in a combat zone now." So I jump in the back with about 15, 16, maybe 18, 20 others, and all our duffel bags, threw them in. And I said, "Where are we going?" He says, "You're going to the Big Red One. They lost a lot of people recently. They got in a real firefight, and they need replacements bad with priority." And I said, "Oh, Sarge, wait a minute, man. I can't do that. I got to go to the one." "Soldier, you got one more chance at this. Get in that truck over there." So I jumped in the truck. And then I said, "Where are we going, guys?" "You're going up to War Zone C and D, a place called Phuc Vinh. And it's going to be right on the Cambodian border." And ironically, it looked a lot like right out here in the valley. You had 2 mountains called the Black Virgin Mountains with a special forces camp on the top of it. And it looked identical to our 2 mountains to the west of us there, Mount Diablo.
Yeah.
And instead of being flat and a lot of desert areas and water in the valley, there was triple canopy jungle all the way halfway up it. But anyway, that's where we ended up. And then that's where you got your famous tunnel systems, the Cu Chi tunnels, the miles of tunnels underground. And then you've got the places named like Hobo Woods and all these other things. But you have an area of Vietnam called the Parrot's Beak. Why? It's shaped like a parrot's beak. Cambodia's border goes like this, dips down like a beak, turns around and comes back up and goes like this. So it penetrated into Vietnam about, and I could be off on this, I like to say about 15, 20 miles, maybe less. and it wasn't very wide. But that's where all your Ho Chi Minh trails. People think there's one Ho Chi Minh Trail. No, there's a series of them. And for our area, they all got together there and grouped, and then went to their main supply places.
And those tunnels went into Saigon, right?
Saigon.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, because there's a Tet Offensive coming around the corner. We knew nothing about that.
Yeah.
But they were gearing up for it even back then. So I spent a lot of my time, I joke with people, I went to Vietnam, but I actually went to Cambodia.
Yeah.
And we weren't supposed to be in there, especially during election year. And I don't want to get real political with anything today, but that was the case. In other words, you're going in there and don't talk about it, don't do that. We had a lot of rules. Couldn't get total support from our fire bases for artillery.
Yeah.
So we relied on air support a lot. We knocked out a lot of SAM sites, got the goods coming down on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. Something kind of funny happened. Got a little Vietnamese guy. They dropped these leaflets, and it shows a dark hand and a white hand grabbing, like they're shaking hands like this.
Yeah.
And they pick them up if they want to surrender. Well, me and my buddy are back at our base camp, which is seldom, and we were in the shower, buck naked, and our weapons hung over the side. I think as a machine gunner, I carried a .45. And when I didn't have the gun with me, and he had the M16, and it was also slung over the thing. And this Vietnamese comes up with an AK-47 like this, and I said, "Oh my God, I'll never get over this. I get shot buck naked in a shower." Wow. And he had he wanted to surrender, and when he came out of the shower. We had an interpreter immediately come over, and they talked to him and said, "Well, what's the deal? We'll take care of you. We'll send you to a camp to bring you up to speed, give you any medical attention." We treated him pretty good, so we could catch him again a couple months later. But it was kind of the guy had lugged a shoulder-fired rocket from somewhere near Hanoi, I figured out. And he got all the way down there near us, up in the Parrot's Peak, fired it, and it was a dud. And they told him that this guy only weighed 90 pounds soaking wet, and to go back and get another one. And he said, "The hell with that, I'm surrender." And that's what he wanted to do, and he got taken care of, and we were very happy. But I go, what a crazy war. But anyway, we kept on going. Yeah, we were out on a lot of pacification type operations, a lot of search and destroy, they call it, things like that. But we mainly were to look for SAM sites that would get our aircraft, or look for Ho Chi Minh Trail, try to break that up, make their life miserable as much as possible. So I was in what you call a LRP, Long Range Recon Patrol, and we had we worked real tight with the 5th Group Special Forces in that area. And we all tried to, one goal in mind, to disrupt the Ho Chi Minh Trails.
Yeah.
Which there were all, and the ironic thing, you can look at Vietnam, and within, say, a 8-mile walk at the most towards the Cambodian side, it looked like a golf course. No bomb craters, just really. And then you get into our area, and there's B-52 craters big enough to swim in, or you could park 4 trucks in them.
Wow.
And that's another story in its own. That's where I got the Agent Orange poisoning. We all did. But it was quite unique. I found out that as a newcomer, you tried to, a certain time in your career, not career, but your mission, your assignment, you got to pass on what you know and learn to the new guy. And there was a standard joke there that, you didn't want to do that because he could probably get you killed. but the new guy that we passed ours on to that day was one in mind, Roger Greeton. I'll never forget his name. He was a very best athlete at the school, a little school in Wisconsin, on Conto, Wisconsin. It may have been Oconto Falls, Wisconsin, right below Sturgeon Bay.
Okay.
The coldest place you could ever be in the winters. But he worked. His family worked in a boat factory. There's a yacht factory there, and they did a lot of that type of work. But anyway, he came up. He had a letter from the Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals. That's when they draft you right out of high school back then. There wasn't a whole network of AAA, AA, single A. You're really good. You went right to the show. And that's where he was going.
Wow.
Well, he had a 30-day leave before he left for Vietnam. And he said, he volunteered. He said, no, I got a call to serve my country. I'm going to serve my country. This is what I'm talking about. I was around real heroes. And Roger did, and man, did he serve his country. And he got his wife pregnant during that 30-day leave. And it was like, I mean, just something like a Hallmark movie almost. I mean, it was just, he didn't, never saw his firstborn. And he should have gotten a Congressional Medal of Honor. Wow. He got 2 Bronze Stars and the Silver Star. And if you know the procedure of the medals, a Silver Star is right below the Congressional Medal of Honor. The reason he didn't get the Congressional Medal of Honor, and we checked into it, that was one of my reasons, was that we didn't have witnesses to it of the officer rank. Yeah. They have to sign off on it, basically, or you got to study it for years, and they do all kinds. But anyway, our CO was killed in the first 3 minutes of our operation.
Wow.
The battalion commander was in, we used to call it shell shock. He was just a basket case. They had walked us into a battalion size unit, which would probably be, I forget, I could be off this, it's usually 4 infantry companies. An infantry company can have up to like 130 people.
Got it.
But none of them were ever at full strength, so we were always operating lower than that. But anyway, they walked us into this VC base camp. They figured between 2,500 and 3,000 of them, and we were surrounded. And this is where, again, when I say I was surrounded by heroes, you may recall one. And back then he was just a light colonel, Alexander Haig. Okay. He was a chief of staff under Reagan. You know, he was strictly military. He's the one when Reagan was shot. He saw some people goofing off in the White House office, something like that. And he said, "Who's in charge here?" That's the famous words that came out of it. Strictly went to this military mode. But it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now, because he saw it all from above. He was in those little domed helicopters.
Okay.
I forgot what the number was. My wife knows, she's an ex-pilot. But anyway, he was observing the whole thing from above. And he looked down and said, "Oh, my God, I got to land." And he relieved one of the commanders that were walking in circles, just shell-shocked, they used to call it. And you couldn't blame him. All hell broke loose. I bet. So he said he really took command of our unit, too. He was with, I think, the 1st of the 26th or 28th. I can't remember. But I remember he was a light colonel then. And we teamed up on one side with Colin Powell. He was another light colonel, a battalion commander. Okay. And with the 25th Division, they call him, his unit was the Wolfhounds, I think. But anyway, big-time heroes, and did everything they should have done at the right time. So we did that, and we were almost overrun twice. We called artillery basically in on ourselves. Yeah. And then we created a gap. We pushed them back, ran back. And the military never runs back. They don't say the word retreat. Strategically withdraw. Yeah. That's a fun one. And we did it, and then all hell broke loose. They spotted it with a little 2 flew over, shot one of the white smokes. He said, "You guys pop your smoke now. I got to register where you are, and I can set it up for the jets. They're coming off a carrier." Mm-hmm. And 2 or 3, I think 5 of them, I might be wrong on that. But I know one came from about 150-something miles away, and he said, "I'll be there in like 3 minutes." So you can do the math on that one. But they were great. They came in, they ran them back. We got out alive. The other units behind us in the rear got to move forward and relieve us. But in the process, Roger saved my life twice that day.
Wow.
And some of the other ones he saved, we figure he saved at least 8 to 10. And which the worst nightmare of a machine gun is you fire so long bursts, the barrel melts down. I mean, it literally melts down.
Yeah.
You got plenty of ammo, you can't fire around. But they got an easy way to change a barrel. But lo and behold, he had to go get it, and it was back about 2 units away, what the military would call a click. That's a kilometer, maybe. I'm not positive, but it's not a mile. It's fairly close. So he went back to get a new barrel.
Okay.
And some more ammo. But in that process, he saved a lot of lives, including my own, and I mean twice. So he gets a little. Well, my wife and I went back to his family because all they knew about it was basically what the military would tell you, and that was a Western Union either telegram delivered or they tried to get an officer and an enlisted person to come by the house and hand the medal or the which was only a couple paragraphs. They don't tell, especially if you've been in Cambodia when all this crap happened.
Yeah.
So they don't tell you a lot at all, but they did, and I had to go back and just tell the family. They caught me on a live wall, virtual wall page they call it, where you could go on and sign on to that person that died in Vietnam and leave a message. Well, I left a message. Roger, everyone who knew him should be advised he was a hero that day and saved a whole bunch of lives, which he did. And it was great. But he never got the Congressional Medal to date. We're still pushing for it. But I don't know. But I wanted him to go back, and I flew back on my own dime. And he came from 11 kids. And it was the best. They took us by the high school there. And he said the best athlete that ever came through, and still their programs.
Yeah. Was he was killed in action?
Yeah, he was killed in action early, not early on, because he was doing errands for us, basically the gun crew. But then I had to put some new guys sitting on the gun. I had to go help a mortar sergeant with a mortar platoon because we had to lay down some of our own firepower. And it was a mess that day. I mean, when it's confusing, they had not the standard trenches you hit when you come to a base camp. There's a series of circular trenches, maybe 100 feet apart. They didn't have the trenches, so we didn't suspect much. But they had the bouncing betties they called up in trees, which they could trigger. And I don't know how they're triggered, but they would come down, bounce, come up about face level so they get more of a kill zone and explode.
Wow.
And that's what took Roger out finally. But
how old was he?
He was 19.
Man.
Yeah, so he had a baby he never saw, and he had a career he never got to, which was baseball.
Wow.
But anyway, that stuck with me. But I'm so glad I went back because I got to tell the family, and only about a dozen, maybe a little more, showed up. But his high school gym teacher, coach showed up. Another lady showed up. His wife never did, and I didn't question that because they had a daughter or two he never saw. But I got to go back and literally tell him, man, what a hero. What a hero. Yeah. And I consider myself lucky for having served under him.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got out of the deal. This is the amazing part or unamazing part. I get out of the service. I get married to a woman that I was married to 52 years. We had 2 beautiful children, a son and a daughter.
Okay.
My son's currently a captain with Tracy Fire, and my daughter has an autistic son, which is my grandson, and he's also severely diabetic. So she couldn't work any longer and had to be his full-time caregiver.
Okay.
But she got a job with Channel 2 in Oakland Television, and then married a guy from Chicago, and she went back there and got a job with the Wall Street Journal. So she gave up 2 good careers to be able to be a real daughter. I'm so proud of her for that. But and my son, he just tooting away at the fire career, and he loves it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he loves it. But yeah, PTSD. I went right into took the GI Bill, went to college, got a BS degree in construction management,
Okay.
and I also I had accumulated some junior college credits, but not enough to graduate. So I had to go to college to get the BS degree, Bachelor of Science, and it took me 3.5 years there. But I and that was in Tennessee, and so we got married back then, and 52 years, everything went perfect. I ran a large construction company with my brother.
Okay.
This is the 15-year-old older brother.
Got it.
And I was always like his baby brother. So we were like nitro and glycerin. He lived in Florida. I left in California. And there was a reason.
Yeah.
But now we're best friends. He's passed away about 3 years ago, but we buried that hatchet. And but I took my, and then I ran a large contractor, drywall contractor, finishing contractor association of union drywall contractors. Plasters were in there, a few, and from Fresno to the Oregon border.
Oh.
And I did it really well. I was with them 30 years, and I thought, man, I got it made. I swept all that PTSD under the carpet. But then my wife of 52 years had a rare blood disease, which I was her caretaker for, or her caregiver for 11 years, 11 and a half. And she died, and she knew she was going to. Yeah. And I'll never forget these words. She said, you don't do well alone, which my sister, you're smiling, I know why. My sister says, he doesn't do well alone. Everyone's telling me I don't do well alone. But my wife said, I want you to remarry. I really do, and I'll bless your marriage if you marry within the church. And that's exactly what Charlene and I, who's sitting over here next to me, we did. And it's been great. And she's my caregiver now, and she recognizes the PTSD totally, knows when I'm going to get in it. Unfortunately, knows how to get me out of it, her style. And it does. It works. And but anyway, make a long story short, we're actually getting the rest of our teenage years back because she had a similar type event. She lost her husband, the one we were talking about earlier today. He was a police chief of Waterford, and then he did a lot of other consulting stuff when he left there. But she lost 2 sons within like 10 years, and her husband, and she had to reinvent herself. And during that time of reinvention, she became a pilot with a major in the Civil Air Patrol. Wow. And taught herself, now she didn't teach herself to fly, but she really got into the career and learned how, has many hours, more than I do.
That's amazing.
And in our business, we had a couple planes because we contracted in 3 different states. And I'd fly them and all that, but I wasn't into it like Charlene was. And so that's how we connected. We went on a date site there out of the church.
Okay.
Exactly what my wife wanted me to do. And we met and we matched up perfectly. It was the first picture I actually saw. She's hugging a 172, like she just landed in. She's out there, and I said, "Oh wow, there's like a relationship right now. I fly too." So we talked, and then we met finally, and the rest is history. But yeah, that was unique. But what happened was when my wife died, then I started, even before I met Charlene, I lifted that corner of that carpet. I swept all that crap under, and it started to surface. Only then. And I talked with a team from VA who has excellent programs on it. And they basically said, I said, you've never probably seen this before. I don't even know how it's possible. I went through over 52 years and produced 2 good kids, I feel. I have 6 grandkids that are just great. And I did this, did that. And I never had a problem with this till now. And it's because they said, to my surprise, the psychologist, psychiatrist on the team of the VA said, "Oh no, this has happened before, and not just once. You'll either go either way. You'll get PTSD the minute you get out of the event, and you'll carry it for life.
Yeah.
Or you'll find it later in life and be quite successful. You can hide it better, is all you did, than the other guys."
Yeah.
So that was a biggie with my life, and now it's starting to fit together. And
How did that affect you? What did you notice from it?
well, it affected me first physically.
Okay.
You may not believe it. I used to weigh 308 pounds,
Oh wow.
and I
Okay.
lost it all in a year and a half, less than a year and a half. And that's a side effect of the PTSD, they told
Okay.
me. And I was never suicidal, but I did have a lot of issues with it that came forth. And I said, I'm going to do something worthy. I'm just going to work with veterans. And that's what I've been doing. I volunteered 4,000 hours over 4 years, I believe it was. I know it was 4.5 probably, with VA, mainly taking them their appointments in Livermore.
Yeah.
And then they get on buses to Palo Alto, which we called the mothership. And then I became a surgeon general in my VFW post, which kept them alert on any new changes in the regulations to receive disability payments for that or whatever. And I talked to veteran groups and interested in them all the time. It's a way to keep me busy and giving back to some of the end of the something that was dear to my heart, really.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great work.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's got to help out. I mean, I feel like our veterans don't get enough of the help that they need.
They
you know?
don't. And it's really kind of tough, too, because we factor in another issue, Agent Orange.
Mm-hmm.
You remember those bomb craters I told you about?
Yes.
Well, when it's 110 out, 108, they brain the water to the surface.
Okay.
They're huge. You can brush your teeth, feel your and it's cool water, not ice cold, but cool. And it's just beautiful. It's a teal color. But 2 weeks before that, maybe 3 weeks, the entire jungle was defoliated. The defoliant Agent Orange was shot on it.
Oh, man.
So it had it in it. We drank it. We brushed our teeth with it. I swam in it, bathed in it. And then 50 years later, the lymph nodes decide to go crazy on me, as they do most of the guys.
Okay.
And that was fairly recently, where you get all kinds of issues from that, which I'm fighting the end of that result now, hopefully. But yeah, it was because Monsanto and a few of the other ones that made the chemical would never give the formulas to the government because they knew what would happen.
Yeah.
And they finally did. And then the government, VA, could treat for it, which is great. They're developing, but there's still a lot of work to do on it. And a lot of the guys have that now. It comes that late.
What were the side effects from
The
that?
side effects is you get an edema in the legs and the lymph nodes. I didn't realize from your toe to your the ones everyone thinks about are under the arms, the cancers. Oh my God,
Yeah.
they're not. There are two of them there and four, but you got like between your toe and right about your waist, you probably have. I'm guess on this at least 80 in each side.
Oh, yeah.
Lymph nodes, and they go to sleep. They don't wake up. They actually have a massage technique they do,
Okay.
and no real drugs can treat it. There may be a couple out there still playing with those, but it's just one more dilemma. In the post-traumatic stress deal is another one, which I'm fighting now too. Just basically trying to recognize it coming and trying to know how to get out of it or try to get out of it. But it tears families apart. It's the most terrible thing in the world. The vets I work with, they're either, that's why I thought this is so rare. How can I go through this, get a good career, raise 2 beautiful kids, 6 grandkids, But it's amazing because they I don't know, they just tend to fight that one. And then it leads to suicides. It leads to all kinds of stuff. But mainly, first thing, they get divorced and they breaks up the marriages.
Yeah.
And I tried my damnedest, which I did, to keep that from happening. So it was a major part. And I had guilt complex. I was one out. You have the picture of it buried in there somewhere. But
Yes.
there's 6 of us or 7 of us left in our whole battalion, which was not battalion, company. I get 4 companies to a battalion. Yeah, in our company, B company, we had like on my end there were all but 2 of us make it, and the rest died in combat.
And
But
how many are in your company?
they were never full strength. A company is supposed to have, I believe, and I could be wrong on this, 4 squads, but be somewhere around 130.
Okay.
And then we were never above 118.
And of those 118 to 130, you had 2 of you left?
2 of us.
Wow.
2 of us basically.
So you're talking about the survivor's guilt.
Yeah, survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
And for what? And I tried to pass on my information to all the new guys we talk, because they're always seeking it out, and it was hard to do because I just didn't have the heart to tell them stuff. We'd be taught what you harden up in Vietnam. You don't make friends anymore. You get to a point to where, why make a friend? He won't be here next week.
Yeah.
And that's about the way it was with an active infantry unit.
Yeah.
And so you don't. And then it's just another new guy. We used to joke with him. We call them FNGs. I'm not going to tell you what the F word was, but new guy. And you just didn't get
I think
close.
I could figure it out.
And they were begging for, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And we do the other statement. You're still pissing stateside water. What the hell are you going to tell me to do that I don't already know or have done? But maybe I should have done more of that, and I had guilt for that too. Yeah. It just causes more PTSD. Yeah. But it strikes when you least know it. Yeah. And
but like you said, you were good at suppressing it yourself.
I swept it under, sweep it under. I got better things to do. I can't worry about this kind of stuff. Just be strong, be strong. And then I just saw, but there's 2 types, and they assured me I'm not the only one that took that journey.
Yeah. So I'm if it's okay, I'm going to rewind you a little bit.
Yes, dude,
and ask
please.
you about how, where and how you grew up.
Yes.
I'd love to hear about that.
Okay.
You as a little guy.
Yeah, I was a little guy, but here's the difference. There were 3 kids in our family. I had a sister, oldest, and my brother. And they were Irish twins. Okay. You know what that is? They were born like, 8 months or something apart.
Yeah.
And then here comes 15 years later. Yeah. Dad, what? He goes, son, best I can tell you, the TV was broke. And he meant it.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the reasons I had with the brother I adored and everything. When we went into business together, my dad went from a very poor, he was a bricklayer.
Okay.
He built prison camps in Oklahoma for the prisoners down there.
Wow.
But he watched them, sit on the side and watched them lay brick. And if you watch long enough and you got a little bit of urge to learn, you can lay a brick. It's not that complicated. But he did. And then he moved up through and they made him a superintendent. Yeah. And so I kind of have a thing with my brother and sister. We never got a car at 60. My dad went from dirt poor to working around 200 to 300 people at a time, bricklayers, and sometimes more, but under a general contractors. And so I was always the one born with a silver spoon. So they accused me of spending all my younger years out at the country club. I did, guilty as charged. But anyway, it really got to be a problem with my brother and I in business. So we just realized we can't work together. But
where did you grow up?
I grew up in St. Louis, born there.
Okay.
And my mother was from Oklahoma.
Okay.
And while my dad was down there as superintendent of the crews building barracks for German prisoners, German and Italian prisoners. My mother, I like to say, was the first hippie. She was before hippies were called hippies. She was a singer and entertainer. She worked for a radio station, and guys like Hank Williams and all, not Junior, the dad, they'd all come through. That's how they promoted their records. But they could bring their musicians, but you can't lug a grand piano around 5 different spots a day. Yeah. So the first words were when they get to a radio station, which all had studios. Do you have a piano? Yes, we do, right over there. Do you have someone who can play it? Yes, we do. It's Juanita. Give her a call. She teaches it. So she couldn't read music, but you hum it 3 verses, she's got it.
Wow.
And what happened was kind of funny, really, but it wasn't. But these guys would come and do it, and then they'd say, "Hey, Juanita, you got pretty good knack for rhythm, and for lyrics. Check out this new song I'm doing, and tell me anywhere it needs corrected." And she never got a dime for all that, and they became hits.
Wow.
And my brother was old enough. My sister saying, "Oh yeah, Mom was unbelievable." She and then they got this is where the hippie part came in. The Germans were there and the Italians, and my brother played on a youth baseball team, just recreational baseball.
Okay.
And the Germans would come to the run side of the fence. They turned their bleachers around, and they took players up as their favorites. They make signs for number 20 and find his name out and cheer him and all that. And my mom and Frida, her girlfriend, they said, "You know what? I bet they're lonely for food. I just make some brats and sauerkraut and some stuff for the Italian bunch, and they take them out there and feed them." And they did.
Yeah.
And they went and they got caught. And the guy comes down, and the story we all heard, and I'm sure it's true, is that's a federal offense when you're dealing with this guy. He said, "Yeah, but they're so nice and everything." And the guy who came to check on him said something to the effect like, "Well, I can't discipline Juanita. She played at my mom's funeral, taught my kids how to play piano." And,
Wow.
and so that was funny, and it was unique, and that's exactly the way it went. And then she had paranoid of flying or anything that rode or sailed or floated. So she was real
didn't
nervous.
like any of it, huh?
None. And this is what's funny too. I got to that one picture of me and what's left of our whole squad. Our company being medevaced.
Yeah.
And a mother can recognize her son, and she did. You'll see an arrow on that when you blow it up. It says J. That's my nickname, J-J-Y, and with an arrow pointing to me. And she recognized me, and all I told her was, "Don't worry, Mom. For 2 weeks or longer, I would always tell her, we're just on guard duty. This is a piece of cake." And then she spots us, and it was for a Cincinnati newspaper. I guess sold some of the rights. It got on a cover of a major magazine.
Wow.
Like Newsweek or Weekly Newsweek, whatever. That's where my
So
mom
going through all these crazy firefights, you were telling her that you were just doing guard duty to
and
try
she
to
spotted
keep her
me.
at ease.
Spotted me and totally freaked out.
Wow.
And, oh my God, she'd watch the news every night after that, and it was kind of tough duty. But yeah, and my brother being older was just out of the military, and he was in college, and he got married. He moved out of the house. My sister got married first. She moved out of the house, and she helped raise me because Mom needed a lot of help back then, and she helped raise me. And I'm going to see her in a week, 2 weeks, and she lives in St. Louis still. She's in assisted living now, but she's 92, and but she I look at her as a mother too.
Yeah.
And so, but the bottom line was, Mom was, she was special, and my dad was, he's a man's man. I mean, he was a hardcore businessman and great father, but few words. So, but when he said something, he meant it, and so, but that's they didn't want me to go into Vietnam, but I had no choice. I got drafted. I always got to bring that up.
Did your father serve also?
No, he was caught between wars. He was caught in that part where he worked, though. He became a government civilian employee.
Got it.
Because he was a bricklayer. He had a talent. And there were a lot of people like if you were an electrician, they put you with that.
Yeah.
And you got to do a lot of different, you learned skills and stuff even. But that's what he did for the whole war.
Okay.
And and then they moved from Oklahoma, Chickasha, right near Norman, the big university, to St. Louis. And that's when my dad's business exploded. Yeah. The war was over there. He couldn't build houses fast enough, and he'd just do a patio or room addition till that. Then all of a sudden he wakes up, he's working over 100 men, and they're going to every 3 states, Illinois, Iowa, and Missouri. and it got huge. And but I was always the baby with the silver spoon, and I don't regret it. I fess up to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And neither of your parents wanted you to enlist.
neither one.
Neither one. Wow.
Yeah, they said they'd have all the standards. Well, you got to remember, Baby Killers was going around. All the movies anti-Vietnam were playing, and it painted us like we were baby killers and crazed and drug addicts, the whole bit. And that wasn't the side you saw at all. You had one incident over there like that,
Yeah.
and it just paints such a bad picture. That's why we always say, "Welcome home, bro."
Yeah.
The parade we never got,
Yeah.
our recognition.
So, what was your personal feelings about that type of hippie movement that were, did you have a personal
My
feeling?
personal feelings were, and like I said, I got into it a couple times, usually in a bar situation, usually someone drinking. I said, you can't pick your war, fella. They called, I answered the call.
Yeah.
And I tried to shake them there, and they said, "Yeah, but you killed babies." I said, "No, we didn't." But I said, "I'm not going to argue with you any longer." And I told him, but I felt like we had one just when was it, 2 days ago? He came in at the car show in Modesto, the American Graffiti Car Show.
Okay.
Charlene wanted to see a car show. She hadn't been to one in a long time. She's interested in classic cars. We always talk about and watch Jay Leno's garage. And so the guy comes up to me and shakes my hand. "Thank you, sir, for your service." Thank you. I was too scared. I couldn't do it. I was just a chicken shit. And he meant it. And I've seen this type of person before. I said, "You know what? I'm glad I took your place, because they have no business in a military environment."
Yeah.
And I
agree.
felt proud that I took his place. And I shook his hand, I saluted him, and all the usuals, because he really meant, he was honest up front with me. And then I see the ones that they'll come up and say, they always say their parent was a vet too, or grandpa, but he never talks about it.
Yeah.
And that's when I say, well, he might when the time comes.
Yeah.
Don't count him out, but just treat him with respect and everything, because he's got this buried inside him.
Yeah. Well, like you said, they all have a story.
Yes.
Everybody did their own thing out there, and it's difficult to talk about because you're bringing up all those old, I guess for lack of a better word, demons.
Demons is what
you're
they
dealing
are.
with, right?
Yeah, they'll destroy a marriage. They'll destroy a life. They'll destroy you personally if you let them.
Yeah.
So it's something you got to work on constantly. And thank God I have my wife now is the type that literally can tell when it's coming.
Yeah.
And she knows what to do. And that's so peaceful. It brings me back. And we joke. She's Armenian. She's got a little bit of Turk in her. And the Turk comes out about then.
Yeah.
That's when I know, run.
Yeah.
But she's good, and she's really I owe a lot to her.
Yeah. So I do want to touch a little bit on the airborne side of it. What company or battalion or
I never got to the airborne unit.
Okay.
So I'm what they call a 5-jump cherry.
Okay.
You go to Benning, you make your 5 jumps, and you go. And most officers do it they either got to go airborne or ranger to advance in their careers.
Got it.
So you had a lot of officers, but I never got past that. I never made a combat jump in Nam.
Okay.
We did a lot of other things, but we repelled from helicopters and did that kind of stuff. But I was a 5-jump cherry. That's what they'd always call us. And I laugh, and it's true. I can't deny it. But but I literally felt like I got cheated a little bit there. I signed up for this. I signed an extra year, but I'm not going to fight that. I'm over it.
Yeah. So what was your actual job there during the war?
My actual job was I was a 11B. I don't know if it's 10 or 20. Advances 20 as you make rank. Okay. 11B 10. Which is light weapons and artillery, which is a license to get you right to the ground, or the infantry unit. And then I was assigned to as an ammo bearer on the 2nd machine gun. Well, that guy gets to the point where he's going back to what we call the world. That's the States. And I took his place. Then I went in and became the chief gunner. and I was responsible for 2 ammo bearers and another guy, a spotter, what they call a spotter.
Okay.
And but I don't regret it.
Yeah.
I don't, because it's just like it's another phase, and I was there. Yeah, you're there with all the action. There's no getting out of it, but it's just it's literally the backbone of the infantry.
Yeah. So when you enlisted at 18, day one, were you nervous about getting into the military?
Yeah, I was. I went down to the recruiter and I said, you're not going to believe this one. I got drafted by the Marine Corps. And I said, the Marine Corps? When in the hell's the last time they ever drafted? Like, are we going to give you a couple dates if you need them? I said, well, how do I get out of there? Because all I could think of, that's a direct ticket to Nam.
Yeah.
And I won't even get the schools I want. He said, well, they traded you like baseball cards back then. I didn't realize what was happening. I'm a naive kid. Wait till you see that first picture of me, my Class A. Just looks like a youthful kid that's never. But he said, well, I can fix that. You talk to the sergeant here. Knock on the door first. He's just kind of quirky about it if you just walk in. And tell him you want to enlist in the Army instead of drafted. You were drafted by the Corps. And he'll take care of it. Well, they're trading me for a future draft choice, literally. And
Wow.
it happened. I got into the and he said, well, now you get to pick your school. I said, well, I want to go airborne. That's all my brother was pounding into me.
Yeah.
And I want to go airborne. I want to go airborne. It's got the right big stamp on it, airborne. And I want to be with the 173rd because I read a lot about them. And we have some family history that was in that too. I had a uncle, a major, Ralph Major, who would kill you if you called him Major. And he was a tough old cookie. And he went. He was in charge of one of the paratroop units in in World War II. So we had a lot of family history that would get broke if I didn't do that route.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to be the one. It's like the kid that sells the farm for housing or something.
Yeah.
Should have farmed it, and well, that doesn't always happen.
Got it.
And I didn't. But I did. Yeah. I'm not sorry, and I'd almost do it again. It was that. It sounds crazy, but I don't wish all the stuff would happen to me again.
Yeah.
But I would do it again. And I was with a recruiter telling him, they says, I get guys like you all the time, Phil. And guess what? We take you too. But they got to be coming up Highway 99, lock and loaded for us to draft you again. And I said, I get it. Yeah. I get it.
So once you enlisted, you were in day one. How soon after that were you deployed out to?
Well, right after that, I went through what they call basic training of the Army, and I can't remember. I think it's 8 weeks.
Okay.
And everything was full. I was supposed to go to Fort Leonard Wood, closest to where I was born and raised, which was St. Louis. Well, I didn't. They sent me up to Fort Dix, New Jersey, the only place they had openings. And we went there, and then I went to Airborne immediately after, back down to Benning for it's a short school. It's like 21 days.
Okay.
I remember it's double time everywhere you go. Yeah, I can remember the old sergeant right now. You look under the bathroom and the commodes and go, if you're doing what I think you're doing, your feet better be going like this. He said it double time. And then we get in it, do our 5 jumps. Usually what was kind of fun, they always put the officer the first one to jump.
Okay.
And all their things, the towers. They had these huge towers like the carnivals have. And they start out at like 35-foot towers. You just jump out in a harness. Wow. And the straps are leather, and they're real. Oh, if you put them on wrong, you're a soprano. But and then we went to the 175. I might be off on these numbers. This is over 50 years ago.
Oh, I got it.
But it was like 50 for to get used to a canopy opening. Like the carnivals kind of have a small version.
Yeah.
And then you do. Then you go out and make your 5 jumps. The last jump's a full equipment jump.
Yeah.
And then said stuff to me like, whatever you do, if your life depends on it, don't drop your weapon. No, I didn't drop
didn't
it.
drop
The
it,
guy
okay.
next to me did, but we all were penalized. You know how that
Yeah.
goes. One guy went into the PX parking lot and landed inside the Mercedes of the brigade commander's car, his wife.
Oh wow.
And then some fun things happened, but that was one of the that way you're in and out and you don't even know what hit you. Then you get the 30-day leave.
Yeah.
This is where Roger got his wife pregnant, and where he had to go to Nam, and so it's like moving at record speed, and the next thing you know, you're in Saigon, and then you see stuff like them spraying the airplane for malaria mosquitoes, and then you see the grills welded to the windows of the bus so the kids won't toss grenades in, and then I'd see the camp we went to, how confused everything was, and I still don't have a weapon. You feel naked without a weapon.
Yeah.
And we're going to go up a road. How many miles? The guy goes 26. Oh, it's secured. Oh yeah, but by who? And that. But it's organized confusion.
Yeah. So the hostile part of Vietnam was the North Vietnam, correct?
Yes.
And then the South Vietnam was
They
ally.
got two different types of VC. You got the kind that would be like our National Guard, a militia type one that stays around. You go into villages all the time, you don't see anyone over 15 years old, males.
Yeah.
Well, you know what's going on. They're out doing the shooting and stuff. But then you got the hardcore red China or the Vietnamese army.
Okay.
They usually wear uniforms with a star on the straw helmets, the whole bit,
Yeah.
red star, and they're hardcore and they're well trained. They've been fighting the French, the Japanese. How did they go first? I think it went Japanese, maybe one before that. The English, I don't know, but I know Japanese.
Yeah.
And then the French came in, and then we came in as advisors, and then we came in full bore. So I had an old Papa son tell me one time, he's eating a bowl of rice, and he looked up and he said, UGI, I'm eating rice. I said, I don't care who you are. We fight you all the time. We'll eventually beat you. And all I want is this bowl full for me and my family. And I'm fine. I don't care who gave it to me.
Wow.
And then I started thinking about that. It really hit home. And he meant it.
Yeah.
And it was such a different type war than I'm sure my dad or my brother saw, or my dad or anybody that went there. It's just totally different. And we tangled with were the hardcore ones with uniforms on the whole bit. Yeah. And they had to use whistles. They use buglers. They use ladders to get over our wire. They lay it on it, and then they use them for gurneys to put their dead on and carry them out. So you can't even get a body count. And they're real soldiers. And we walked into, they think up to 3,000. They think it was so, I'm not saying war stories are better than other war stories, but they think it could have been as big as Iwo Jima, where they had the raising of the flag. Because we fought hand to hand for almost 20 minutes. And that's another experience. But it was tremendous, because we were right on top of them before we knew it.
Yeah.
And so that was outnumbered. But it just shows you our superiority in training, how good it was. And again, General Haig, now he was a 4-star when he got out, of course, but he was a colonel then. He said, consider me a company commander, follow me, do as I say, and da-da-da-da. And he was right on the money. And that's the only reason I'm here talking to you.
Man.
It was that bad.
What are your recollections of the hand-to-hand combat?
All I can remember is your head's on a swivel. And your brother is supposed to be watching for you because you're concentrating on one skill set, the machine gun. Well, he's got to watch for his own butt, too. So you don't know what's... And then someone would come in, they're out of ammo. They smoke a lot of dope before they go off, opium mainly. And then they get high, and then they get in formations and they charge. They do all that. Wow. Which, you talk to someone from G1 or the intelligence of the Army one. Oh, that's not the way. No. Well, how many you been in? I don't see a CIB on your uniform. But it was really, it was there when you had to do it, but you didn't have to do it constantly. It would just be, here comes 2 more. and they're out of ammo most of the time. And the ones that aren't, you just want to pick one and thump them or whatever you could do. And that didn't last too long, that part. Thank God. Because 110 degrees, you got everything, nothing left. Nothing left. And we had to make a strategic withdrawal very fast. Throwing away all our barrels, guns, pick up spot they can't find it, or take them an hour to put back together, because they'll be chasing you if this doesn't work. Push them back.
Yeah.
Air attack, and all is well. Well, it worked.
Yeah.
But, oh, man.
Does that stay with you? I mean, when
It
you
stays
have to
with me, and probably starts the PTSD episodes, some of it. Another bunch of it, what could I have done different to get the new guys better trained and stay with them the whole time and help them and all that. I just, you're always going to be guilty with that one. It never leaves. Never leaves. But it's always going to be there. And I've come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
I just got to learn to manage it again.
So you were at Operation Cedar Falls?
Cedar Falls was the first one in Junction City. They were back to back.
Okay.
And they were the biggest operations of the war.
Yeah.
And they just had constant skirmishes. And really, I didn't see much action till about my 8th month over there. I mean, it was mild. It was, we got in firefights a lot and stuff like that, but sniper stuff. But people don't realize snipers aren't all in trees and picking you out from a half a mile away. It's not the way it works. You got the ones that come down, run right through. I'll never forget. I went on R&R. I finally got an R&R, and I took Tokyo because I wanted to see a big city over there and one that's growing and everything, and I heard that it was nice to go to. So I took it, and that's only like 6 days, and you got to process back.
Yeah.
But when I was over there at that, I literally thought about when I come back, how am I? You like miss them, you worry about them.
Yeah.
Wonder. So I come back, they're out in the field. I'd wait to get the chow chopper that takes out the food and rode it back out to where they were in the jungle. And they were set up a little camp out there. And I said, "Where's Charlie or where's Sarge?" He said they were killed. And the one sergeant that was killed he had about 8 kids. Nicest guy you ever met, a big black guy, about 6'6", had to weigh 300. He was way over the limitations for the military to begin with. But he didn't have a lot of time left. But a sniper came running through and just started fanning. And he was sitting on a log eating lunch. And they got him. And then all I could think about his huge family.
Yeah.
And how devastating that's got to be for him. He only had like a month left. And then it always enters your mind, that could have been you. You know, I was on R&R. I don't know why I was gone, but I probably would have been hit because I used to sit with him when he'd BS over sports all the time. Hey, do you hear how the Cardinals doing? Because he was from, I think, Kentucky, so they're in the Cardinals zone for watching sports.
Well, that's something that people don't think a lot is that you're going to have a sniper just run through your camp.
No, that's what they do.
You know,
that's what they like to do. They get one that's totally crazy. It's almost like he's going to make a name for himself, and like what are the 40 virgins the other guys got? Something. They come through and they'll do that. They'll cause disruption with a minimal amount of casualties. Only be one of them, and they killed him eventually, but he got to our guys too in the process, and thank God it was quick. Someone jumped him, and they said, but Sarge got hit right away, immediately. And I think 2 others, me. So it's always, you're in a war zone. You got to act like you're in one and see it. But another part of this whole equation, when I got home, I realized my best years of my life, I've never seen a miniskirt. I never saw one Red Cross girl that was like about that much above her knee. We're all laughing, said, that's what they're all talking about. We said, you know what? We all got screwed out of our teenage years, are the best parts of it. So I joke with Charlie here all the time. We're going to act like teenagers for our first year of our marriage. I'm going to find those teenage years back. Damn it.
Well, man, that's It's amazing. So after Cedar Falls, you went to Junction City?
I think that was the way it went. I think
okay.
Cedar Falls was
'Cause
first.
that was one of the largest airborne operations in World War II, right?
Yes, it was. We took off with our first initial take where we took off from, I'll never forget, it was from, I can't remember the airstrip, Lackey, L-A-K-I-A. I can't spell the Vietnamese trip, but it's pronounced Lackey or Lackey. And 60 Hueys staggered like this, the full length of the longest runway they had.
Wow.
And they're all fired up, revved up, and they're doing a combat departure.
This
in
was
your
a
ears,
search
your
and destroy?
body's shaking, and if the sound alone could be heard, they said from like 5 miles away. They're noisy.
Wow.
And we'd fly around, and we do. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
We do stupid things. They called them eagle flights, where you'd land in a big clearing, and then stay down for about a minute on and take off again. The enemy that's spotting this is thinking one thing. Maybe they dumped them all there. Maybe they didn't.
Oh,
And so it's a military maneuver. It's pretty clever. And then finally we went down and we unloaded half of us at one and half at another. And that was our end of it. The new the air cav was farmed up a few years. No, not even that. About 8 months before us. We should have been the new air cav, but we weren't. But the 1st Cavalry Division, they retired their horses for the Iron Jet-powered helicopter.
Yeah.
And basically, that's what happened.
And was that the search and destroy mission?
Yeah, there
Was
were
that at
several
the time?
search.
Yeah.
Well, usually when we go into those, it was search and destroy if you find it. If not, harassment and I forget what they have another word for it too. Just raise holy hell and then get out, because we want to get them shook up enough to spot where they're at. And they kept a lot of intelligence from those things, but that was our biggest that I've ever been on. Yeah. And then we broke down to smaller groups as the days went by.
Wow.
But it was like a huge operation.
Yeah.
And then the 173rd, which I should have been with, they did the only combat jump in Vietnam during that operation. And we secured the LZ for them.
Yeah.
But they did, and they jumped into it, and they got on the manifest, and it's a real honor to be on it. They got a special designation, I think, on their wings for it. I can't remember if it's a clover thing with a star, and there's a pecking order for all that.
I see some of these things on your hat. Can you explain some of those?
Yeah, that's CIB is the charm. That's the highest award for an infantryman.
Wow.
That's if it doesn't have the rifle in the middle, the reef around it, it's an infantry. You passed a course, you took a class,
Okay.
passed it. If it has the honor reef around it like this does, it goes on first, and then everything precedes that.
Yeah.
Works its way down. And then the jump wings, this is basic paratrooper qualification badge.
Yeah.
And these are the medals from Vietnam. I've got more. I've got 2 rows and 1 medal. I got this row, and I got another one and one below it. I don't even know. You saw them, they're in a box still. Yeah, that's where you put your demons. You lock them in a box, and they'll never come out and bug you, right? Okay. And then this, my wife, which I was a member of, Airplane Owners and Pilots Association, which she was in charge of. Yeah, nice. Modesto Airport, she went on that, worked actively with airport managers in the California Northern Pilots Association and the Civil Air Patrol.
Yeah.
So she's got more hours than I could ever dream about. But, yeah, that's it, basically. And I got a flag here, and I got this badge. We got in remembrance of 58,472 who died in that conflict. And it goes up. And they're the Agent Orange, back to that one, they actually got a medal now. They're getting commissioned or trying to for us. They got that. And we can be on the wall in D.C. if we want our names on. They're fighting for it. Put it this way. They cleared the first phase. And that's a big breakthrough right there, because they're just realizing This is combat induced too, guys. This is no different than it should be a Purple Heart falling and they got a picture of the medal that's orange.
Yeah.
And I seen the prototype, and they approached me on it at one of our reunion meetings or something.
Yeah.
So we're getting there, just not. But most of the time I wear the hat. I jokingly, I even joked with you today, but it's true. I've got more free beers wearing this, and it gets me out more.
It's not free though.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's not free.
It's
You did a lot to get that. But
it's like it's a good conversation. It gets it started.
Yeah.
And like I say, Vietnam vet will open up to another non-vet if he thinks he's serious. He's going to test you first.
Yeah.
And I'm used to that. And he'll test you. I got it the other day. The one did it. But that's okay. He's been screwed over ever since he got home. And he knows it, and we know it. But, yeah, it's just a way of us communicating kind of with each other.
Yeah. So if we have some veterans, which I'm sure we do, watching this episode and are going to see this episode, is there anything that you'd like to tell them? Maybe they can reach out, or if there's something
I do. I tell them, number one, don't think you're exempted from the PTSD part. You just swept it under like I did. And for the guys that didn't, and it's with them every minute, get with VA. They got some great programs. They got a suicide prevention thing. It's like a dog tag, and we tell them to put it on all their car keychains, whatever.
Yeah.
Direct dial. They'll get you help immediately. If you can't get in, they'll tell you check in this hotel. They're really good. They're really good. They'll find you. You just tell them where you're at. They got teams that go out and find them. I ultimately like to get on one of those teams because that's the guys that need help a lot right now.
Yeah.
And it can hit you anytime. And don't let it break up your marriage, and don't let it break up your family. And for God's sake, don't let it make you want to take your life. Because the suicide rate of non-vets is higher than 1-2 in Korea.
Wow.
I don't know if that's combined. I heard a number like that. It's very high.
Yeah.
But they're addressing it finally. They're addressing it. And that's to me is a good thing.
Well, Jason, I can't thank you enough for coming out here and sharing this story. I know, like we talk about it, and you say these are demons that you don't want to bring up and have to deal with again and actually think about again, and all the lives of the friends and everybody that you've had to witness being lost. I mean, that's something that you don't want to obviously bring up again.
I consider it a pleasure. Part of that would be that I got to serve. Remember when I first talked to you, I'm not a hero. Don't even count me in with those guys. They're heroes beyond recognition. It's unbelievable. And I got the pleasure of serving with them. That's the way I look at it, honestly.
And I can appreciate the fact that you say you're not a hero, but from this side, looking at you, I feel like you are a hero. And to a lot of people out there, I'm sure that they feel the same way, and they're going to hear this story and just know that that's something a hero would say.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
I'll take it. But what they got to know is, too, there are people, professionals that will help them immediately.
Yeah.
And monetarily, too, because there's money now budgeted for all this. Congress did get the money finally, and for the Agent Orange treatment, too.
Yeah.
And so take advantage of it, because it won't be there forever, but yet they want to reach you. And you don't have to do anything, but they'll check the records, make sure you were in the right place. You told them it's presumptive.
Yeah.
You might have to go to a hearing doctor and one other. I had to do a couple doctors, but just one was what do you call it, where you interview yourself at home. Yeah. 2, actually, I think were that way. And then one for maybe 15 minutes just to check hypertension levels.
Got it.
And do a blood test and a blood pressure, and that's it. You're in. But do get there, and it'll make your life easier, more pleasant.
Yeah. Well.
And thank you for what you're doing.
No,
I'm serious. You're tapping into culturally a generation that missed their youth and got scolded for doing a patriotic deed.
Yeah, travesty. I
I
agree.
can't tell you how much that I respect what you're doing.
I appreciate that very much,
Really.
and I'm glad that I was able to. Everything happens for a reason.
It
and the day
does.
that I came across you, I think was, meant to happen.
It
And I'm
does.
glad that we were able to make this work out, and you and your
That's
lovely wife
exactly
here
the
to
way I feel
come
about
see
my
us.
wife over here. That it was meant to be for a reason.
Absolutely. Well, again, Jason, thank you again for coming,
you.
and thank you, Charlene. Can't see Charlene, but she's here.
She's here.
I appreciate both of you for coming out here, and hopefully we can keep in touch. And
Let's do.
All
Let's
right.
do.
All right. Thank you. I'm
Take
gonna
care.
Stop this.
God bless, guys.